The North Country has lost so many huge employers over the last few decades, it's hard to make a complete list. General Motors, Reynolds, Ethan Allen, the paper mill in Newtons Falls, General Electric, Kraft in Canton, the Plattsburgh Air Force Base. The list covers every micro region of the North Country and goes on and on and on. And it's crushed the regional economy in many ways. But the shuttered mills have also forced communities to reinvent themselves, think hard about what comes next. Word that NovaBus is winding down in Plattsburgh is forcing that kind of reckoning. And local leaders there say they're ready to take on the hard change. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Claxton Hepburn Medical Center, dedicated to providing patient care and regional services to the people of St. Lawrence County. ClaxtonHepburn.org. And CCOM Credit Union, serving the financial needs of people throughout northern New York and Vermont, in person, online at ccom.org, and on your smartphone.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Thursday, July 6th. First up, if you've turned 30 but still harbor dreams of joining the New York State Police, there's good news. Governor Kathy Hochul has approved a request to raise the maximum age to apply to become a state trooper from 29 years old to 34. In a statement, Acting Superintendent Stephen Negrelli says it'll allow state police, quote, to recruit the most diverse and skilled group of candidates possible. The next application process begins Saturday and runs through September. An 18-year-old Akwesasne man has started his professional hockey journey after getting drafted by the NHL's Anaheim Ducks. Kerry Terrence Jr. spent this week at the Ducks development camp. The St. Regis Mohawk tribe hosted a draft watch party at Generations Park last week when he was drafted. Terrence told the media yesterday that's where he'd play lacrosse and skate in the winters growing up.
The support's been unreal from home. I can't thank everyone enough.
Terrence says it's important to him to be a role model for younger Indigenous players.
Kind of my drive right now is showing the younger generation and the younger kids that it is possible, and you guys can do it. So I was that age at one point, just kind of playing hockey and lacrosse, and kind of not knowing where I was going to go. So I was in their shoes before too.
Terrence was drafted 59th overall in the NHL draft last week. He's spent the last 2 years playing for the Erie Otters in the Ontario Hockey League. He said he plans to spend the rest of the summer skating and training before another season with the Otters. When NovaBus announced it was pulling out of Plattsburgh last month, affecting 350 people, the region was blindsided.
I couldn't believe it was true.
It just came out of left field.
Stunned, totally surprised, and profoundly sad.
That was Clinton County Legislature Chair Mark Henry, Sylvie Nelson, who leads the North Country Workforce Development Board, and Gary Douglas, president of the North Country Chamber of Commerce. NovaBus plans to shift production to Quebec by 2025. As the dust settles, the company and those local leaders say they're focused on taking care of affected employees and looking towards the future. Champlain Valley reporter Kara Chapman reports.
Amy Dumas is a quality technician at NovaBus's Plattsburgh facility. She's a mom of 4 and was on maternity leave when the company announced its plans to close the factory and move bus production to Quebec over the next couple years.
They had a meeting within the business, and they called me afterwards to make sure I didn't hear it from a third party.
Dumas says she was upset and a little panicked when she first heard the news. She's worked there since the facility first opened in 2009.
I honestly didn't expect it. I don't think anybody did. I think a lot of us considered it to be our last job.
She says NovaBus was constantly getting orders for its buses. Over the last 2 years, the company has won contracts from multiple U.S. transit authorities, including those that serve New York City and Washington, D.C. But the company says U.S. production has experienced, quote, continued financial losses over the years. Christos Kritsidimos is head of public affairs at NovaBus. He says the losses were caused by a number of factors and have been the reality since the beginning.
It is not new. But every year we had hopes that next year would be better, and this is going to improve, and that's going to improve, and it didn't materialize.
Novabus hopes shifting bus production to Quebec will help make it profitable. In the meantime, Kritsadimos says, Novabus is working to keep employees on board as it finishes out U.S. orders. He says Human Resources has laid out retention bonuses and severance packages, among other measures. Dumas says that's helped calm her and her coworkers since the announcement.
I don't know a lot of the newer employees, so I can't really speak for them, but the people I've worked alongside for years, I think they're all feeling the same way. I feel, and what I've heard is that they know we'll be taken care of at the end and that they want to finish it out for the company, for each other.
Dumas says she's open to relocating within the Volvo Group, which owns Novabus, to keep her benefits and time off. But she also says she hopes everyone can find jobs locally and that other companies will offer similar pay and other perks. Sylvie Nelson, who leads the North Country Workforce Development Board, says the hope is that most of Novabus's employees will stay local.
There's quite a bit of various openings in other manufacturing plants that perhaps these employees can go to. They have great skills. They're very valuable employees.
But those workers aren't the only priority for the Workforce Development Board and its partners. Nelson says Novabus is an anchor in the region's transportation cluster.
And so there are quite a bit of other manufacturing entities in the area that support the efforts of Novabus. So they produce components that go into the buses.
So another big concern after the announcement was how to support those businesses and their employees as Novabus leaves the area. But Gary Douglas, president of the North Country Chamber of Commerce, says most of the smaller manufacturers supply other industries or have a variety of customers across the country.
So it's not quite the automatic ripple effect that some might have assumed offhand.
Douglas says the chamber has now met with all of Novabus's suppliers in the region.
We actually feel encouraged that in a few cases they have other work that they can pursue, and they're actually very committed and determined to stay in the area and develop over the next year and a half other customers.
One big theme you'll hear from Douglas and other community leaders is that the region's been through big changes like this before. The Plattsburgh Air Force Base closed in the 90s, and Pfizer took hundreds of jobs when it closed facilities in Chazy and Rouse's Point.
We've gone through this before as a county, as a community.
That's Mark Henry, chair of the Clinton County Legislature.
I believe we will come out of this again, and we will be stronger for it. But it certainly doesn't make it any easier for the folks that will be affected by this.
Kritsadimos hinted that this might not be the end for the Volvo Group in Plattsburgh. He says Novabus and its Plattsburgh and state stakeholders are exploring a way to present the local workforce and facility as a package that can be repurposed for one of its sister companies. But he strongly emphasizes all that is preliminary.
No, we don't want to make promises. We don't want to be held to, but you said you promised. Way too early for that. But we like the facility. So it is our intent to present it to the group.
Douglas says the advance notice of the closure gives the community time to reach out to other manufacturers who might be able to move into Novabus's facility, which is still fairly new.
We're already getting calls from potential prospects out there in the international marketplace who have heard the news and want to know more.
Honestly, the business is set up. It's set up well.
That's Dumas again.
We have vendors, it would be silly for nobody to come in and scoop it up.
Novabus says it plans to finish out its contracts with the goal of shutting down production in Plattsburgh at the beginning of 2025. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Tim Elifritz of Johnsburg and Ramon Vasquez and Michael Hart of Malone. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.